I'm your host, Sean MacKenzie. Thank you for joining me once again on my channel on data engineering and data analytics. In this episode, we're going to return to our Python playlist, and we're going to look at Matplotlib and Pyplot, and we're going to do a stacked bar chart in the most simple way by actually going in and using the Matplotlib methods and things like that. And stacked bar charts are great for all kinds of uses because you can split up your bars into sort of subunits so that you can see how those subunits are doing compared to other subunits and how they contribute to the total. So without further ado, let's get to our stacked bar chart in Python. Okay, so I'm going to start by making a new file here in our Python idle shell. I'm just using the default installation of Python from python.org, and I've added some libraries and things on. If you go back to my earlier videos in this playlist, you can also install those as I did. So we'll start with, we'll import our pyodbc as pyo and pandas as pd, just as usual. And this time we're going to use our Matplotlib, and we're going to use Pyplot as PLT, and then we're going to take the ticker from Matplotlib, and we're going to use this maxn locator in order to allow us to have integers on our x-axis that are sort of distinct and they're not calculated or anything, or and so that's going to help us to do that. It's going to give us a nicer x-axis. So to start, we'll print our getting data, and we'll do our connection string to our database. This is one that we've used in the past, so I just pasted in the connection string from our other video, and then we'll go ahead and create our connection. We'll say pyo.connect. We'll use our connection string, and then we'll print that we're getting our data. And these steps might seem familiar to you as we've used them in our previous episodes where we're getting data from our databases. And we'll select from our table, and I made a table in there called financials by quarter, and you can see that here. And this is a table that I just created for this purpose, so it just has a few fields, one for division, one for the year of reporting, one for the quarter, and one with the dollar amount in it. So we can get our data frame by doing df equals pd.read SQL. We'll use our SQL and our connection as our arguments for that, and then once we have our data frame out, the data out, we'll close our connection. Make sure that you always close your connection before you start working with your data frames, so you don't forget, and leave those open on the network. And then we can give that a try. Let's just hit F5 and just see. Looks like we got our data out, and that's exactly what we wanted to see. So we got our data, we selected, and we closed our connection, and then we can go ahead and continue on. So from there, we're going to go ahead and we'll set our figure and our axis variables, and we'll set axis equal to the plot and the subplots in there, so that we can add multiple plots on there. And we're going to use this this line here, and this is one that I found on Stack Overflow, which can help us to let our integers in our x-axis be just integers, distinct integers, without being recalculated or set to 0.5 and things like that. So once we've set that one, we can go ahead and add a field. So I'm going to add a field, and I'm going to take our totals in our data frame, and I'm going to divide them by 1000. And once we set our amount, our totals amount here in our data frame, we can go ahead and we can set up some more data frames, some sort of I've split up the data. I'll split it into districts for now. I think that's an easy way of doing it, and this is kind of a nuts and bolts method of doing the stack bar chart. We're actually going to take our bars and we're going to stack them ourselves, as opposed to using the group by .plot method, which is quite a bit easier, but you might find that this can give you some control over certain things in certain circumstances. So this is a very basic way of doing it. So we're going to filter our query and create a district A, a dist_A variable, and that's going to hold just a subgroup with district A. And then we'll do a sum_A variable data frame that is going to basically be the group by the year, and it's going to sum up the years within that. And so very simple little data frame. We'll do the same with our B, our district B, and our same with our district C. So I've just copied it in here from the lines above just for demonstration, and I'll do the same with district C, and you can change those to C, and this will be a nice easy way to show this. So you can split this up any way that you like, and you can get lots of different interesting ways of doing your stacking. I'll do 2 different methods today. And just before we plot it, we'll set our width of our bar. We're going to make a variable called width, and we'll say that that's 0.40, and then we can start plotting. And so what we're going to do is we're going to plot each of these districts individually, and we'll do so by specifying a bar in our plot. So we'll do ax.bar. We're going to use the suma.index since we don't refer to that directly as a field in there. That's just the first field that you see if you do an output of the data frame. And then we'll do our totals amount, which we calculated, set the width, and then the label equal to A. And then we can copy that line, and we can do the same for both. But before we do that, let's just make sure we have something happening here. We don't have any errors. So it looks like that code runs without any error, so that's great. Once we've done that, checked that we're working properly, we can just copy that line and paste it in 2 more times, and we'll change this to our B district that we created above there. So we'll just say sum of the B, and we'll do our label as B as well, because that's district B, and we'll do the same for our district C. And so this isn't as automatic as you might find using other tools. However, it does give you sort of a very fine granularity of control over what's happening in your chart, and that can be a positive thing. So going back up to our B row, we're going to set a bottom argument, and we're going to set the bottom of that stack or that column in the stack. We're going to set the bottom to the sum of the previous row, and then for the third one we're going to set the bottom of that stack equal to the sum of both of the previous rows. So as you can see, for C, we'll set the bottom of that stack in each case equal to the sum of A and B, and so it basically just lifts it up, and you can see those in your chart when we run it here. So once we've got our totals stacked under the latest one, we can go ahead and we'll add some some nice, we'll add a title to it and some X and Y labels here. And we'll call this division performance by year, and that'll give us a title along the top, and then we can add some X and Y labels by doing our plt.x label and Y label. So we can add an X label that just says year, and then we'll say for our Y label we'll we'll call it total amount, and we've got that specified by thousands because we divided it up above when we added our field to our or our column to our data frame. So we'll call it total amount with some zeros in there, and that's going to help the user to understand what the numbers actually mean. And then we'll tell it to put a legend on there with ax.legend, and then we'll say plt.show. And that's gonna basically bring up our graph for us so that we can see what's happening. So I can go ahead and hit F5 after looking it over a little bit here and just see what we get. So looks like it did run. That's exactly what we wanted. So there we go. We've got our division performance by year with our total amount by thousands on the y-axis and the year on the x-axis, plus our legend up in the top right. And we can see that we've got our stacked charts according to the values in our table, and those years are nice and distinct as columns. So that's a great way of doing it. We can also flip this around and we can change it to show a different kind of stacking, and we'll do that now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the all of that middle code in between our our title and everything and our amounts, and I'm going to create some different sort of subqueries here or data frames, and instead of using the district, I'll do it by quarter, because maybe we want to see our numbers in each year, but divided into quarters to see how each quarter did in that year compared to the other quarters. So I'll create a data frame called Q1, and then I'll filter that out of our data frame, df data frame, and use a quarter equals 1. And then I'll do a group by and a sum based on the year for that one. And then I'll take that and I'll just paste it a few times here, and that'll give us a different way of looking at it. And all I got to do is just go and change the numbers here. Probably could have split this into a function. That would have been a little bit more efficient, but just for demonstration purposes, we'll do this the easy way here. So there we go. We got our Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4, and those are going to give us little data sets that we can, or data frames that we can plug into each of our axes, or pardon me, each of the bars on our chart there, and that's going to look all right. So I'll just change all these to the right numbers and have a look over it, and then we can sort of take a look at what we got. And then, much in the same way as we did before, we'll do our bars just the same way, but we'll just type those in as ax.bar, and then we'll do our sum Q1 dot index, since we're going to be using the first, kind of like the first field in there, and then we'll do the amount or the totals field as our the amount that we're putting into our graph, our width of our columns, and then we'll add our label, which will be Q1, and that'll give us our first bar. And then we can just copy that and just paste that in a few more times just to add a bar onto our chart. And we'll do the same thing, so we'll change that to 2 for the second quarter, and then we'll do the same for third quarter. We'll change that to 3 and get our totals and everything from those data frames, little data frames, and then, oh, that's a 4. change that to a 3, and then our final stack, which will be the Q4, and we'll add the Q4 for each of these, and then from there we'll do the same thing that we did last time, which is to we have to add the part where each of these stacks up onto. So like I said, we're kind of doing a manual stacking here, which isn't the fastest way of getting a bar chart. However, it can give you a little bit more finer control. So we're doing it the manual way. So we're going to say the bottom of our Q2 is stacked on the bottom of top of Q1, basically, by putting Q2 on starting at where the totals for Q1 ended, and then for Q3 we'll do the sum of Q1 and Q2, and by doing that, that's going to push that third bar up further, so that you can see how that works. And in this case I'll remove the bottom. I just copied that so that we had each of those in there. So we got some Q1 and some Q2 underneath Q3, which is what we wanted to see, and then we'll do the sum of all three as the sort of where we're going to start Q4. And kind of a manual way of doing it, but it does give you a nice view of how it works. And so I can paste that in a couple of times and just say Q3, Q2 and Q1 added together, and that's going to be where our bar chart goes. Okay, I'll do a quick check on each of my variables here, and I can see I got Q1, Q2, everything's set to 2, and everything's set to 3, and then 4, and then we can go ahead, and once we've sort of looked those over, we can hit F5 and we can see what we get there. So let's see what happens when I hit F5 here. There we go, it starts, goes and gets the data. Oh, we got an error. Okay, so looks like the oh yeah, we must have cut the width out of there. Okay, so when we did that big cut statement, or when we did the big cut out of our code, we also cut the width variable, so we got to put that back in. And there we go, width equals 0.40, and then we can hit F5 again, and there we go. Oh, it looks like it calculated this time, and there you go. There's another way that we can stack our measures and split up the years to view it a different way to see how each of the quarters did compared to other quarters in 2018, 2019, and 2020. And that's how you do simple stacked bar charts in Python. Hope you enjoyed today's episode on how to use stacked bar charts using Python and Matplotlib and Pyplot. If you like what you saw today, please give the video a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't not subscribed yet. And if you have any questions or comments about what you saw today, please go ahead and put those in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to try and answer any questions that you might have. Have a great day, have a safe day, and I'll catch you next time.